Oh, I am into it. Are you into it? Are you into the Continental Classic? Pal, friend, chum, buddy. You really should be at this point. Is the feeling being restored, folks? Fellas, ladies, are we getting back into it? Guys, gals, non-binary pals, is AEW back? Let me tell you, lots of money in a lot of mouths, if you ask me. One guy got his wish, came out swinging, we swung back. You think he wouldn't come for it? Hit the bricks, Anthony Khan. I'm MrWarrenHayes. Another good Dynamite this week. It's feeling good. It's feeling like old time. And when I say old times, we're not talking like, back when in 2020. No. I'm talking, last January, last February, last December. Like, we're barely a year removed from one of the greatest stretches of TV wrestling in a long time. And forever, maybe. Back to old times. We're getting there. We're really getting there. The Continental Classic. Man, has this thing picked up? It's getting good. I think it's getting good for a bunch of... Well, look, okay. Yeah, I'm hype. What do you want from me? I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about last night's Dynamite. Of course, this is the AEW Dynamite review. Did I even introduce this? Welcome. We review Dynamite weekly here on the MrWarrenHayes show. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, leave a like and a subscription and get excited with me. Otherwise, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify, would be appreciated and help grow the podcast at the same time. But look, I want to get into this one here. Into this Dynamite from the College Park Center in Arlington, Texas. And look, this is how good of a mood I'm in right now. 3,689 tickets distributed according to WrestleTix, right? We didn't even break 4,000 here. It's still piss poor attendance. But I just want to get into this. I want to get into the show. Because, look, what am I going to tell you about the Dynamite attendance this week that I haven't been hammering home over the past multiple weeks, like since the summer, really, in regards to attendance? This is not good. But Warren was a hard crowd. Absolutely. What a fantastic wrestling crowd they had. Absolutely made up for the fact that, a quarter of the building was empty. Or whatever. Absolutely made up for it. But don't try to make excuses. These are not good numbers. And I don't think it's sustainable. That being said, again, everything that I would have to say about this low attendance figure, it's rinse and repeat from everything I talk about here and on the Collision review in regards to numbers. I just don't look. It's not as much that I want to wash over it with all this great talk about, because if there was something significant that I could add on the business aspect of it for this attendance here, if there was something more that I could add that I haven't already spoken about over months at this point, I'd do it. But I'm like, look, why don't I not waste your time, people, friends, watchers, listeners, crowd, group? Why don't I not waste your time and just get into the thing? Because otherwise I'm going to be rehashing old bits. And I don't think you want that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to not. And especially when there's so much, there's so much different stuff to talk about this week. Like there's lots of compelling, really fun stuff to talk about. Let's just get into it, right? Right. Okay. So I'm recording this, as many of you know, on the Thursday. So this is December 14. And we are talking about the December 13 Dynamite, of course. Like I said, Arlington, Texas, so on and so forth. And as we've been doing over the past couple of weeks, let's start with a breakdown of everything that went down with the Continental Classic this week, where we had Blue League matches and Gold League matches. Everyone is caught up. Everyone is up to date now. And that's tremendous. Like, no, coming in, Andrade and Brody King were one match behind the rest of the Blue League. No longer is that the case. Everyone is on equal footing when it comes to wins and losses. First of all, though, even before we get into the matches themselves, it has been announced. They came out with it. Excalibur announced it. It's done. Head-to-head tiebreakers. G1 Climax tiebreakers. As we assumed they were going to do. We expected them to do. These types of tiebreakers, where essentially, in the event of a tie, the guy who has the win over the other gets the win. He breaks the tie that way. Now that we know this, now we can start talking a little more confidently about what scenarios are happening, what are things going. Because in the meantime, we were all just assuming there were going to be G1 tiebreakers, right? It could have been. They could have done a number of other scenarios, tiebreaker matches, so on and so forth. But no, we're getting the head-to-heads, and that's tremendous. I think it's great. So on that footing, we got into this one here where Andrade El Idolo from the Blue League defeated Brody King in a tremendous match. A tremendous match from both guys here. And they're really going strong on each other from the get-go on this one here, right? And you have Brody who just like drops Andrade with a shoulder block, Andrade is looking fantastic in this match. Well, both men are, quite frankly. And they're just beating the tar out of each other. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I'm a simple man. I don't necessarily need overly complex things. I understand the stories of two guys beating the shit out of each other in a professional wrestling match. It makes a lot of sense to me, and it was tremendous. It was I thought this was great, and you even had Andrade pulling out all the offense right down to the split-legged moonsault. He did all of it. Back elbow, and then the finish happens when Andrade, he and Brody King are on the they're struggling on the turnbuckles, and the turnbuckle padding, not the turnbuckle itself, but the gimmick, like the hook thing, the padding that's around that gets removed. So what does Andrade do? He DDTs Brody right on top of it, and then gets back into the ring, does the hammerlock DDT, and gets the win. Again, I'm a simple man, and this was fun. It was something we hadn't seen yet, and Andrade is now at 9 points. Brody King suffering his second loss. We'll touch on the standings and whatnot in a short while. But what a way to kick off the show! Holy shit! What? Just a great TV match and that holds its own in this tournament. Then we had a little later on Roosh defeating Jay Lethal in a sub 5-minute match. What is it? 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you ask me, and you probably are, you're probably asking me for my opinions, at least implicitly because you're watching, right? Or listening. If you ask me, I think this made a lot of sense. Look, you have Roosh, who is, an established badass, right? And maybe he sees himself a little more as a badass than a lot of us do. But let's refrain from this conversation for now. But he's a badass. He's a fighter. He's a brawler. He's a tough guy. So his loss last week, right? It was last week that he lost to Moxley. Probably in character, probably did get to him. Probably did piss him off. So he comes in here with Jay Lethal, who's he's the pin eater. He's the J Brown. Jay Lethal, the J-Brown here, the scrub. You know, he's the guy who's eating pins throughout. Roosh comes in, demolishes the guy, just picks him apart. And I thought this was off to a really good start too, but then at some point, Roosh is just like, no, Roosh is overwhelming, just taking over. And there's nothing Lethal can string together that can keep Roosh down. So Roosh destroys him. Roosh, comes in, knows, he's probably on his last breaths in regards to his tournament. And he just comes in swinging, swings for the fences hard, and he just dismantles Jay Lethal, beats the job guy for the tournament in less than 5 minutes. So he officially stays alive. But as you recall, in our weekly Continental Classic wrap-ups here, we soft eliminated Roosh from the tournament. He is mathematically still alive, but his chances of advancing are very circumstantial. We'll get back to that in a little bit. And we got another Continental Classic match for this time from the Gold League. Well, I mean, there was one Blue League match. Everything else was Gold League. But from the Gold League here, we had Jay White defeating Mark Briscoe. Good little match. Good stuff. Solid. Well done. Great pro wrestlers. Everything came together. Maybe not the most explosive match from all of the Continental Classic matches that we got today. And not just the Continental Classic. We're going to get, we'll talk about Hangman Page and Roderick Strong in a second. But, maybe not the strongest of all the Continental Classic offerings, but this is a bit of an embarrassment of riches situation where it's like everything was good to great at this point. So I'm not even disappointed. I thought it was well done, a super fun match between the two, and Jay White, he's dropping sleeper suplexes one after the other. Mark Briscoe with a backdrop driver. He even at some point tries to get the J Driller, but Jay Lethal's been working the legs the entire match. He goes for the froggy bow. Mark Briscoe does, knees up by our boy Jay White, who then lands the Blade Runner and get his 9 points. Jay White still very much alive in this tournament. Again, we'll get to the standings in a second or two. And finally, the main event, the hotly anticipated match between Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland, where Mox did end up defeating Swerve here in a match that I thought was tremendous. I thought was very good. And, I did hear say, a lot of people wanted a lot more out of this match, but listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm kind of okay with what we got, and I think this is indicative of something. Well, I'm going to break it down. Don't get me wrong, but there's some stuff here in this match that, look, I thought this was great. I thought this was really great. Like this one, I gave this. Let me see here. There we go. Okay, I gave this 4.25 stars. I thought this was tremendous. I thought this was really, really good. And they're trading big moves, and Mox is pulling out Gotch pile drivers and flatliners by Swerve. Like Swerve's bringing out his big offense too. Doing jumping kicks and he's stomping Mox on the floor, and Mox is doing the bulldog choking into Jujikatami, and we're going to the 3-minute mark here. And if you recall, my prediction is that this match was going to go to a draw, and they give the overrun. And I'm like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We're going to a draw here. So and the Mox gets the win on a roll up shit or whatever the fuck. But here's what was fascinating maybe even shocking to me, is that what was shocking to me is that the and I think to everyone, is that Swerve's shoulders were not pinned. You know, neither of his shoulders were pinned. He just, he being and Mox on top of that was grabbing, and you know they were making, commentary was making a point of this, grab the trunks. So not only was Swerve sort of not even properly pinned, but you got Mox there clasping onto the fucking. So I'm like, okay, this is very interesting here. I'm not gonna lie, this is very, very a curious development indeed. And you know, frankly, I don't know what the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the anxiety is around Swerve losing here, right? Where everyone, there's a lot of people throwing in the towel, getting mad at this. And I think this is by design. I think this is purposeful. Because look, if you're a betting person, I am not a betting man, but if you are, if you like to, if you're into that stuff, I would put a little money on the following scenario. I would put a little money on Swerve and Mox fighting each other one more time in the context of the Continental Classic and Swerve coming on top. I think they didn't create this finish out of nowhere. I don't think that they created, that this is the finish they decided to go with to protect Swerve or some bullshit like that. This is an opening for a bigger match, for something more significant, for an extended feud here. Mox here didn't give a shit, right? He did the thing. He did the thing. He held the trunks, and he was, you know, at the end he was flipping people off and like, I don't care. Who cares? I won. But Swerve cared. Yeah, Strickland did give a shit about losing, and it didn't make him happy. So it feels to me, and my instincts are usually pretty good here. It feels to me like we are going to see Swerve and Mox within the context of this tournament one more time. And this is going to be the definitive Swerve win here. Because I agree in everything that they're setting up and how they're pushing Swerve Strickland. And be very clear about this. What Swerve Strickland has been going through is a push. Dave Meltzer recently on I think it was in The Observer, talking about Shinsuke Nakamura's current push. I'm like, that's not, have we forgotten that a push actually involves you winning some matches and elevating yourself, right? Where Shinsuke has been in losing endeavors against top stars. That's not a push. Let's not lose the plot here. Swerve is actually 100% truly in the midst of a push. So what are we doing here exactly with this situation here? I would not be surprised if in the semifinals, there's two scenarios, right? Let me backtrack a little bit. There's two scenarios I feel are possible here. And it depends on which one AEW decides to go down. Of course, but it depends on this is what I'm trying to say, because of course, Warren, there's two scenarios, but AEW is going to pick, but the point is that we don't know what I'm trying to say, goddammit, is that we don't know what the semifinals are going to look like. And there's really two ways to go about it. Either you do semis within the same league with number one versus number two again. So you're retreading a match from within your tournament, you're rerunning a match that you already held in your tournament, or you do gold winner versus blue runner-up and blue winner against gold runner-up. It's either or. But I think no matter what the circumstance here is, I think, and there's probably going to be a lot of people not going to like this. If we do the gold 1 versus blue 2 and blue 1 versus gold 2 scenario, I think it is entirely possible that Mox and Swerve find themselves head to head once again at World's End, because we'll get into scenarios very shortly. But if Swerve wins his next match, there's a very clear circumstance where he can finish number 2. Then he goes off and beats blue 1, and then he goes to the finals. And Mox right now is the winner he is going to win the block. He is going to win the gold league. So he is gold 1. So he beats whoever blue 2 is. And then we get these two guys back at the pay-per-view for a big ass main event confrontation. I know there's a lot of people who really want Eddie Kingston to be there, but I'm just establishing a scenario that would make sense of this ending. Otherwise, if the semifinals are within the blocks themselves, winner versus runner-up and on both ends, well, then we can absolutely run Mox versus Swerve again in the semis, right? But I think with what they're doing here, with this very match, I think the story here, that I think this is a good enough, strong enough, compelling enough event to carry this into the finals at the pay-per-view at World's End. I 100% think they can do it. I'm excited for this. So we talk about standings then? Let's see how we're going. And we're also going to be talking about Blue League here as well. But we'll start with gold. So as we said, Moxley got another win. He is at the tippy top with 12 points. Then we have Swerve, Jay White, Swerve and Jay White, who are both at 9 points. Roosh with 6, of course. Lethal and Briscoe are eliminated. Now, again, I think Roosh is soft eliminated here. Let me take a look at the board here. See, Roosh has Strickland left. I think it's extremely possible, highly likely, I should say, that Swerve Strickland is going to win against Roosh. Even if Roosh gets 9 points, he lost to Moxley. Well, Moxley's going to be ahead of everyone. He lost to Jay White. Jay White is already at 9, so he wouldn't even qualify for that. And I think that's the biggest red flag there. Is that Roosh's 2 wins right now are against the scrubs of the league. He didn't beat White. He didn't beat Moxley. I don't think he's beaten Strickland. I think they established Roosh this week as a hungry beast, but I don't think he's going to make it. So even if he makes it at 9, even if he makes it to 9 points, Jay White, even if Jay White loses his match and stays tied at 9, we're gonna have a little odd 3-way situation here, because if Jay White loses his match and stays at 9, he still holds the tiebreaker over Roosh. But then Roosh will hold the tiebreaker over Swerve Strickland. And then Strickland holds the tiebreaker over White. If they all end up with 9 points. If Roosh wins, that's what happens. All 3 of those guys go to 9 points, and then we have a 3-way. And it's a goofy scenario to think about, but I don't think. Look, a lot of us in the G1, trust me, it's the same thing here with the C2. We love to get into our heads and start thinking about all the scenarios because We want to be the one who sees the goofiest scenario and calls it out because there's a point of pride to it or whatever. But when it comes to these these tournaments, when it comes to the G1, it's always Occam's razor. It's always the simplest expression that makes it happen. So even if we could have a three-way situation here, I think we go with the easiest call here, which is Jon Moxley, of course, wins his final match against Jay White, establishes him all the way up at 15 points, a perfect record for his C2. White stays at 9. Swerve beats Roosh. Swerve gets his 12 points. We have a clear delineation where who's at number 1 and at number 2. And we're having Swerve work for the accolades a little more, which is good booking. It's good fucking booking to do that. This all makes sense. So I saw a ton of anxiety in regards to Swerve losing and, oh, they're just going to go with Mox again, aren't they? He might win the block, but I don't think he's going to be. I put your money on Jon Moxley not winning this tournament. Mark my words. So Gold League right now, this is where we're heading. So again, next week, Jay Briscoe and Jay Lethal, which should actually be a lot of fun. There's a feud there too. And at the end of the Lethal match, let's not forget, Lethal was very disappointed and cameras followed him up the ramp, and Jarrett and Sanjay and the Dorks, they all came out to sort of, and Jay Lethal was sort of brushing them off and he's like, man, I'm so sick of hanging out with losers and being a loser. I mean, I'm not the one clamoring for a Jay White push. Couldn't care less. But there's a story there they're trying to say. So what if this leads into Jay White and Mark Briscoe and they sort of mend fences and they whatever. Seems like Mark might win next week, but look, it doesn't really matter. Then, as we said, Mox versus White and Roosh versus Swerve Strickland. Very engaging stuff. Very, very engaging stuff. As it pertains to the Blue League, as I said, everyone now is on equal footing in regards to wins and losses, which wasn't necessarily the case. And quite frankly, right now in the Blue League, and we could sit here and go through every possible scenario, but I'm not going to. There's no point. But there bears pointing out that outside of Dan Garcia, everyone is still in play here. Every single man who is not mathematically eliminated is still in play. There are still 2 matches left for each wrestler in the Blue League. These are the standings right now. Andrade Idolo, he's got a perfect score. He's up at 9. Brody King, Bryan Danielson, tied at 6. They both ate a loss. They both ate a loss, so that's where we're at for them right now. Eddie Kingston, he's on the comeback trail at 3. Claudio still at 3. Of course, Dan Garcia, as we mentioned, is at 0. He's officially out of the tournament. So it's really hard to point out who's going to go forward here, because there's so many things at play still. There are so many things that I've still that there are many. Every scenario is dependent on other people's tournaments. Like, it's a big yarn murder board, where you tie up the Polaroids to the pins and whatnot. There's a lot of that going on. Andrade right now, he's got the perfect score, but he still has Claudio and Eddie Kingston left to go through. Danielson, he's got Brody and Castagnoli to go through, right? And Claudio he has Andrade and he has Danielson. So there's still some stuff that could happen here. And Kingston has Dan Garcia and Andrade left. Andrade, who is currently positioned, he's currently the league leader. Now, I know a lot of people want Eddie to win. and this always pops up. This is always the conversation that pops up every time I talk about it, every time we're chatting about it, whether it's on Blue Sky, follow me there, or on the Discord, Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. Link is in the description. Come and join us. We'd love to have you. What about Eddie? I think Eddie's going to win. Oh, Eddie's my pick. You know, even people today, right, are still doing that. And we talked about it on the Collision review last week when Eddie got a win. I would absolutely see him pull off a Naito here, where, you know, he lost his opening matches, but then comes back from behind and swoops it all up. But right now, Eddie's win conditions are very much dependent on the Bryan Danielson Brody King match, which has been announced, right? Has it been announced? Andrade. Yeah, it has. It has. This Saturday. So we're at the Curtis Culwell Center. We're getting Danielson versus Brody King. Now, why is this a significant match for Eddie Kingston? I'll tell you. Eddie has 2 more matches left. He's got 3 points. He needs, if he wins, the maximum amount of points he can get is 9. And he has to win his next 2 matches. If he wins his next 2 matches, he gets to 9 points. If Danielson or Brody King win their match, either or, let me say that again. Brody King and Danielson both have the tiebreaker over Eddie. They both have wins over Eddie. So the minute either of those guys gets to 9 points, Eddie's fucked. Maybe not fucked, but he's in trouble. Because in the meantime, Andrade's at 9 points. So Eddie would have to win. Eddie would have to win against Dan Garcia and beat Andrade, right? Those are his 2 matches he has left. And if he beats Andrade and Andrade somehow stays at 9 points, Andrade loses to Claudio and then loses to Eddie. If by any chance that happens, then Andrade ties Eddie, but Eddie will have beat him, right? If Eddie has to win this, he has to win all of his matches. So he'll have the tiebreaker over Andrade, so he'll be able to, so he's in a better position. But then if Brody King or Danielson win this Friday, that means whoever won that match has to also, that spells trouble for Eddie, absolutely, because whoever wins has the tiebreaker. So Eddie has so many moving parts right now. All he can really focus on is winning his matches and hoping that Andrade drops one and that either Danielson or Kingston this week tie it up at the very least, so that, and then after lose their matches. That would be the best case scenario for Eddie. There's a lot more to this, obviously. We can go deeper, but we're not doing that right now because, like I said, like there are so many dots that you can connect here, because the Blue League everyone is in contention. Everyone is like within a victory of making something significant or fucking their tournament up. It's been I told you guys and gals and non-binary pals to keep your eyes out on the Blue League, right? I told you the Blue League was going to be special. It has been, just converted some fantastic matches. Collision this week, just a terrific show. The Danielson Garcia match, outstanding stuff. This is where we're at. And we're getting close to the league finals. Are in 2 weeks. I'll tell you one thing. I'll say it again. When this tournament started and we had those few opening matches, I was like, they have to pick it up. Boy, did they pick it up. And I think it's a combination of the matches picking up and people wrapping their head around the round robin tournament. I think people are seeing this play out. They're seeing how things are coming together and everyone's getting naturally into it. But do not discount the work that all 12 of these guys are putting in this tournament. It rules. It's been very good. It's been a tremendous amount of fun. This is the kind of thing upon which you can build this legacy of the C2. If this one is as good as this is, then next year people will be excited for it. Very naturally. Maybe we can build it properly and so on and so forth. But we'll do a postmortem on that. We'll talk about that another time. But that's where we're at right now. So my coverage will continue on the Collision Review this Sunday. We'll start off the show with that as we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. So there you go. So Continental Classic aside, we have the rest of the show as well to break down. Now here's the thing: the show opens with Samoa Joe coming to the ring, and we start talking about last week's attack on MJF and by the devil, and he says he's here for answers, and he was supposed to protect MJF, but now the devil has made a liar out of him, so on and so forth, and he accused the Hangman Adam Page because of a beer bottle. Page arrives and he says, "Look, if you want to accuse me of something, just say it. Accuse me." He says, you'd be surprised just how little I care about all of this. He says, because I don't care about the bromance or the laser tag or the game of who done it. I just don't care. And I'm like, is Hangman taking notes from my show? This Hangman is me. Like the bromance, the laser. I'm like, oh, he's listening to me. He is the voice of the voiceless. And then that leads into Roderick Strong coming in with the Kingdom. Rod talks about stuff. Keeps hammering home that MJF is the devil. And then this all devolves into the Adam Page Roderick Strong match, which was tremendous. Roderick Strong, look, you can feel whichever way you feel about Adam and the fucking wheelchair and the skits from the house and having the lawnmower and the giraffe stuff, the races and the whatever. You can feel whatever way you feel about that. I'll tell you this. This Roderick Strong is and has always been a top tier worker, a fantastic pro wrestler. No surprise here that he gets into the ring with Adam Page, who is another ace level talent, and they do something that is tremendous for the 15 minutes or so that they wrestled. Just a tremendous, exciting match. Kingdom interfere and Adam Page fights them all off, and he should. He's top babyface guy. He shouldn't have to deal with low-level scrubs. I'm using scrubs a lot in this review today. Try to vary my vocabulary a little bit. But nonetheless, gets he can't quite get the buckshot, but the Deadeye gets the job done. So Hangman getting a solid win, getting some heat back, and look, we can already cut to the end. We can let's smush all of this. We're bouncing through time here. We'll go to the end of the show and we'll come back. But, after the main event, after Swerve versus Mox, we go not backstage, into the parking lot where Paige is being swarmed by the putties and the Devil's goons, right? and he's fighting them off, and they finally put him through a windshield, some real glass Crimea River shit right there. And the devil is there and looks on and whatnot. I'm like, okay. And, no sign of MJF this week. Someone's going to bring this up next week. Oh, the devil was there, but where were you, Max? And I was like, haven't you watched Alicia Toots vlogs? You'll know where I've been. So, listen. I did not hate this in the slightest bit. The Roderick Strong bit is annoying. It grates me, gets on my nerves. Okay, but that being said, everything that they set up in this angle here, they're bringing Paige into the MJF devil fold here. With Samoa Joe, they're getting some friction developed there, and then you have and then how it was executed at the end, like it's still very whodunit and sports entertaining, but no attempts at poor comedy, no bloomin' onion jokes, no food so spicy bullshit, none of that stuff. We're sticking to the basics. We're doing things that are so clear and easy and so clear and easy and that work. And I'm like, no, this works. This is all fine. I can't poo-poo any of this. It's all very good. So this is what we're going to do at this point. We're going to pat everyone on the back here who has decided to swerve, move the MJF story into much more pro wrestling territory. It's, still sports entertainment, but it's not as heavy-fisted and disgusting as it was. And I think everyone is coming off looking better here. Even MJF in his recent promos, he's been coming off like been feeling like the old MJF again. He's still a babyface, don't get me wrong, but his promos are more and every time that he had to focus on in-ring promos, he's been tremendous. Once we start doing the goofy bullshit, that's when you lose me. But this stuff works. This stuff is better. I enjoyed this. It's a whodunit. I know everyone is speculating. I don't care enough because I don't think it's taken such a while for this to get even remotely interesting, even a smidgen of interest. Because they've been half-assing it, And look, here's the thing that Excalibur a couple of weeks ago told me anyone who tries to help MJF gets attacked by the devil, when that happened to the Acclaimed. Well, Adam Page didn't try to help MJF, and he got attacked by the devil. So, it's like there's still glaring issues with all of this. It's been mismanaged. I don't think creatively it's been solid. But the way we've realigned things, and you can feel it, we're bringing things back to normal. No, hacking into the systems and all this bullshit. It's like, all right, let's do things. This is the first week where I'm saying, I like this. This works. If we continue down this line, it'll make sense. And here's the thing. Here's the most important thing. It won't make the MJF story feel any lesser. Won't make it feel worse. Might actually improve it. There you go. Great match. I gave it 4 stars. Tremendous stuff. 3 3/4 stars. Excuse me. Yeah, no, sorry. 3 3/4 stars. It's Andrade versus Brody King that I gave 4 stars to. We've already talked about that. Then we get the Andrade versus Brody King match. Then Renee is backstage with the Von Erichs. Kevin Von Erich is there with Ross and Marshall. And Kevin Von Erich says he loves AEW. He loves the style. He loves it so much that, the top representatives of the brand, Orange Cassidy, Danhausen, and Trent Beretta, pop in. And this all leads to a match where Orange Cassidy is going to tag up with the Von Erich kids, the grandchildren of Fritz, essentially, Marshall and Ross, and they're going to do that on Rampage. Okie dokie. Now, here is unquestionably, I believe, the low point of the evening. There has been much that has been said about this, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega and their promo segment with Billy, see, I did it, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. I thought this was awkward and weird, and it turned the corner when Chris Jericho started comparing Ricky Starks to a better dressed Enzo Amore, and then Kenny says, well, the only difference is that at least Enzo didn't hog up all the spotlight when hyping up Big Bill. And I find that fired up Ricky, right? Didn't you find Ricky? I think it pinched a nerve. I think there's something that, or he just naturally got fired up like big time and just drove this home. But I thought it was there's a little more gumption in it, right? Anyway, but I thought this was sloppy. No energy. You know what? Here's what I found weird. Kenny Omega, and I know, look, Kenny is not, I don't think anyone here listening right now, who is level-headed and fair, will say that Kenny Omega is a great promo, right? I don't think, Kenny Omega is known for many, many things. His promo work isn't one of them. And he's a very laid-back dude, seems very chill, but I mean, there's chill and there's chill. Like, he was hanging over the top rope. Like, his whole body language was just like, didn't feel invested. Didn't feel like he cared. You had Jericho come out, and Jericho was Jericho, and he looked like Chris Jericho. He had the fucking the leather vest, but there's a term for that. I don't remember what bikers call it. This, not the straps. It doesn't matter. But he had his leather vest on, and he looked like Chris Jericho, and he acted like Chris Jericho. And Kenny was just like, and his every time he talked, it felt a little off. He looked tired. He looked like he didn't care. Right? Don't you guys find? And he's flubbing his lines. And he's doing the bid you adieu thing at the, over and over again. Like he's losing himself in the bit. And I didn't think this was great. Now, is this the worst thing I've ever seen in AEW? Oh, Jesus Christ, no. No. Far from it. But it stands out because it stands out on a show where everything else was connecting. Hell, even the fucking stuff with the putties was working. Everything connected on the show. So this really did stand out. And I think that's why a lot of people are going particularly hard on it. And I think there's a lot that didn't work about this promo that is on Kenny Omega. I think there's a lot of stuff that didn't work here because Kenny was just wasn't it. He didn't seem into it. Jericho was into it. Bill was into it. Rick, Big Billy Starks, when Jericho was trying to do the pun name thing, Big Billy Starks, and great save by Excalibur. Billy Starks challenging Athena for the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship this Friday on I got nothing here for the low point of the show. Fair? Fair. But I don't think it's as, destructive as some people are saying it is. I don't think it's that bad, but it was bad. But maybe not that bad. But it is bad, but not that bad. Riho in her match back from returning defeated Ruby Soho. I thought this was pretty good. Toni Storm was on commentary. I thought that was fun. That was pretty good. I think that is one of the least annoying. I forgot to write it down, but she had the guys crack up at some point on commentary. I don't remember what she talked about, what she said, but everyone corpsed. I thought it was good. Nothing to tear the house down, but Rio's a solid worker. People really like her. Doing Northern Lights and Dragon Suplexes, does the double stomp for the win. Ruby's sloppy. We have to come to grips that Ruby Soho is she's a sloppy pro wrestler. That's all there is to it. No sign of Saraya or Cool Hand Ange or all this nonsense. We focused on Riho returning and establishing herself as a contender for Toni Storm. And quite frankly, here's the thing. In another era, not that long ago, a less goofy Toni Storm would come into this match with Riho, and I'd be rubbing my hands together, and I'm like, this is going to rock. Here, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much shtick we're going to get versus the amount of really good work we're going to get. I don't know. How many, shoulder, Luther assisted spots are we going to get and all this bullshit? And then Mariah May's involved in this too. We'll find out. But a good little match. We get Wardlow continuing on his crusade against MJF. Then we get the Roosh and Lethal match. After that, we get a promo, a package for the Blackpool Combat Club versus STR and Mark Briscoe match at Final Battle this week. And that's going to... y'all know it's going to be tremendous. The Jay Briscoe Memorial match, right? That's just going to... it's going to rule. And then we got Mox versus Swerve. Look at this. Look at this. A completely competent, well, more than competent, a well put together, dynamic, thrilling show with lots of fantastic wrestling. Like, I don't know what more you'd want for this, right? What more do you want for this? This was great. And right now, we don't talk about ratings all that much here. I leave it to people who are much better than I at doing this. But you look at the quarter hours for last night's Dynamite. Guess what, folks? The big matches. I'm looking at this here. People tuned in for the wrestling. And Jon Moxley versus Swerve was hype big enough, was the biggest quarter-to-quarter change of the evening. Things started to dip with Riho versus Ruby Soho. Got a little better with Lethal and Roosh. And then Mark Briscoe and Jay White. But then when it was time for Jon Moxley versus Swerve, everything started going up. Money mouth. There you go. That's a Dynamite review for you. I'm excited for you all. I'm excited for you all to come back this Sunday for the Collision review and more Continental Classic. I'm excited. I mean, I'm hooked now. I'm into it. They got me. I want more of this, so let's do it. And it would be, so I hope you guys and non-binary pals are around as well, so that we can continue breaking this tournament down as we get to World's End. So I'll be back on Sunday. Otherwise, I will be back on Tuesday for another live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, which will be the last one before Christmas. So you want to come and check that out. In the meantime, folks, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.